As the sun rose softly over the verdant hills in Arkansas, it cast a soft pink and gold hue across the sky. It is possible the gentle symphony of birds outside the Duggar family house broke the stillness, and there was a stillness in the air. There was an air of normalcy about things that belied the seriousness of what was about to transpire. There was a noticeable quietness in the air at the Duggar residence, a large two-story structure that had formerly resounded with the giggles and commotion of 19 children. With the passage of time and the departure of many of the children, the memories remained woven into every wall. The air was lightly perfumed with the scent of coffee, pancakes, and the tranquility that families often overlook. Deck bugger Jana stood by the window of her room and rubbed her hair against the mirror. Quiet, trustworthy, and beloved, she was the firstborn daughter. People who knew her well often said that she was the one who held the Duggar family together. Jana remained calm and collected during her years of fame, criticism, and controversy. She was a family person who never grumbled or spoke ill of herself. Instead of fear, she experienced what seemed like contemplation that morning, a strange calmness in her heart. One picture frame on her dresser depicted her with her younger sisters, and another one from when she was a little girl. She counted 19. She stole a quick glimpse at each of them. Subsequently, much had transpired. The once comfortable TV family seldom got back together. They had been scattered across many states and ways of living throughout the years. Downstairs, Michelle Duggar was already in the kitchen preparing breakfast. Plates were set on the table while she sung a hymn in a low key. Her eyes conveyed both warmth and the fatigue that comes from being a public figure for so long while still caring for 19 children. Unaware that it would be her final encounter with Jana, Michelle beamed as she saw her descend the stairs. Jana mentioned wanting to take a short drive to Faggville, but other than that, it's just running errands and spending time alone. The route was old ground for her, having driven it countless times. Michelle gently reminded Jana to be cautious, as mothers usually do. Jana nodded in agreement. There was hope and promise in the skies outside. Jana slipped out of the house, her keys tinkling softly in her palm as the trees fluttered in the wind. Sitting in the driveway, the family SUV gleamed in the morning light, having just been washed. Jana was a little hesitant to go on board. She felt the gentle warmth of the sun's rays on her skin and took a deep breath. That was just one of those little things that nobody notices until something big happens. Open and expansive with golden metals on either side was the road ahead. As soon as Jana turned on the radio, a soothing Christian hymn that she had sung at church when she was little started playing. The car was brimming with recollections. A moment of peace washed over her as the music played, the type of peace that comes when everything is simple again. As she glided through the countryside, flashes of her youth danced through her mind as she and her siblings ran barefoot in the backyard at sunset. She remembered laughing uncontrollably. The values instilled in her by her parents came flooding back to her. Those long family prayers and those pesky photographers that would follow them around. She had always felt the weight of obligation. That early morning trip became her sanctuary, even after fame had departed. Taking a quick journey through the roads of Arkansas and her life story. As it delicately flowed through her open window, the breeze caressed her hair. The clouds were thin, the leaves were rustling, and everything seemed normal. But up ahead, amid a thick stretch of forest, the road curved sharply. There was already the silent, merciless hand of destiny, and there was this bend that could change everything in an instant. Just after 9:40 in the morning, Jana's SUV continued along the twisting country road that passed past the outskirts of Faggville. A thick mass of slowly moving clouds had blocked the sun, which had been brilliant earlier. Nature seemed to be experiencing a looming tempest, more of a tempest of destiny than rain. The sky darkened. The radio was softly playing a song about faith and acceptance. Jana's hands rested gently on the steering wheel as her eyes traced the same terrain she had seen hundreds of times before. The enormous oak trees that lined each side of the road were swaying softly, casting shadows that danced on the glass as she passed by. There was a faint aroma of pine and damp earth in the air. Her thoughts turned to her loved ones, including her parents, siblings, and the younger generation that held her in high regard. Her mother's kind reminders and her father's protective voice brought a smile to her face. They had always found their way back to their faith, even in the face of fame, judgment, and loss. But nothing faith could do on this journey would prevent what was to come. As Jana kept on driving, the sky began to alter. The raindrops gently tapped the windshield as a gentle drizzle began to fall. With her eyes fixed on the empty field ahead of her, she slowly and methodically engaged the wipers. At this point, the road was sticky due to a thin film of water that was shining on the asphalt. A small bridge, which she had crossed countless times before, stood ahead, spanning a narrow creek. Nevertheless, today was different. A deer sprang out of the trees and onto the road all of a sudden. So suddenly, there was a haze of brown against the gray rain. Jana screamed and spun the wheel in an instant to keep from crashing into it. Tires slid off the road in an instant. As the vehicle veered sharply to the right, the back end came tumbling out. It took longer. As the SUV skidded across the wet road, the world rolled to one side. Violent tires, screeching, tore through the air. Without time to think or take action, Jana's heart was racing. Her heart raced with a mix of fear and prayer. Securing the wheel with a firmer grip, she continued. After that, something went bang. The vehicle slammed into a large oak tree with immense force. The clink of twisted metal echoed through the forest. The windshield shattered into thousands of pieces that rained down on the wet pavement like rainwater. As the airbags went off, a plume of smoke rose into the air. The vehicle settled down, went silent, and cracked after one rocking. Somewhere in the middle of a song, the radio turned off. The sole noises that remained were the soft hiss of the motor and the faraway rumble of thunder. While her seatbelt held her firmly in place, Jana's head gently rested against the side glass. Her placid expression and closed eyes gave the impression that she had just fallen asleep. Once again, the outer world went silent, as if in respect. Minutes passed before the first person arrived. When a passing farmer noticed the broken railing, he halted. With trembling hands, he retrieved his phone and dialed 911. Vehicle collision on Highway 71 near the bridge. Quickly, if you please. The landscape was engulfed with the ear-piercing sound of sirens in no time. Paramedics hurried to the scene, soaking their clothes in the rain as they desperately tried to unlock the crumpled door. Despite shouting her name and searching for a pulse, they came up empty-handed. Jana Duggar did not exist. It was 10 minutes before 6 in the morning. Paramedics stood there, expressionless and silent for a while. It was one of them who plundered the wreckage for a small cross necklace that had been hanging from the rearview mirror. As he stepped back, he gently placed it on the dashboard. The rain poured softly on the white sheet that covered her as a farewell. From across town, Michelle Duggar's phone rang. In the kitchen, she was engrossed in folding a towel when she heard it. On the other end of that call were words that would change her life forever, but she had no clue. The phone rang that morning just after 10:30. With a low hum, Michelle Duggar poured coffee into a white ceramic cup as she stood in the kitchen. When she picked up the phone, she assumed it was one of her daughters, maybe Jessa or Jill, calling to see how she was doing. But it was an unknown, unsteady voice on the other end. "Tell me, ma'am, are you Mrs. Duggar?" Michelle was unsure. "I am, in fact." "Say who you are." "Daniels, an officer with the Washington County Sheriff's Department." "Here, please have a seat." Her hand stopped in midair, causing the coffee cup to lightly crash against the counter. There was a visible tightening in her chest. The officer's voice subtly but profoundly conveyed the gravity of the situation. "And that has happened," he continued. "Your daughter, Jana, was a morning traveler on Highway 71. Due to her vehicle's failure to—" Michelle did not hear anything about control or the rest. Phrases faded into silence. She fell to the floor, her legs giving way, the phone still stuck in her ear. Neither breathing nor speaking came easily to her. It appeared more darker and more claustrophobic. Reciting her daughter's name in a whisper caused her voice to crack like glass. "Please, God, don't let Jana." Jim Bob, his expression betraying his anxiety, sprinted over from the other room and knelt down beside her. He could tell everything from Michelle's expression, like time itself. Words were superfluous. As the coffee cup dropped to the floor, the black liquid delicately dotted the white tiles. The once happy home of the Lucky Duggars had become a somber place. 1 hour later, the older children began to arrive, their expressions betraying their deep emotional distress. The room was heavy with sadness. When Jessa brought her baby, who cried softly but didn't notice, fearfully clutching her spouse, Joanna shook uncontrollably. The younger kids, who were still a bit perplexed, sat in corners, their expressions reflecting their fear. Quickly, the news spread. By mid-afternoon, media vehicles had gathered around the Duggars' property, and reporters were whispering into cameras about the tragedy. No amount of comforting words, flowers, or food from Michelle's neighbors could soothe her pain. She wore a sweatshirt over her heart that night when she sat in Jana's room. A trace of her daughter's scent lingered in the room, wafting through the plush linens and fragrant shampoo. On the dresser sat a Bible that Jana had marked up to emphasize the following verse: "The Lord is close to those who are grieving and rescues those who are spiritually crushed." The letters became foggy as Michelle read it over and over again, tears streaming down her face. The initial report was issued the following morning by the sheriff's office. The accident was determined to have been caused by evasive maneuvering in wet road conditions. But Michelle still refused to accept that it was just an accident. Jana had always driven with poise, caution, and discipline.